So what does the death of God mean? Well, and I want to understand it in two senses, because if you only understand it in the religious sense, like the death of God, then like there's a whole lot of people out there that'll be like, oh yeah, so who cares? Though there'll be some people who will take that as the greatest sacrilege or whatever. Uh, but I think that if we understand it correctly, everybody who understands it right will be shaking in their shoes, right? Will be gnashing their teeth. It's that terror that is after the liberation, right? So, death of God. Now, religiously, the death of God, how did he die? Well, we killed him, right? How did we kill him? We suffocated him. We put him in a box, right? And we said God is eternal, and he's infinite, and he's beneficent, and he's omnipotent, and he's omniscient. He's all loving, he's all knowing, he's all powerful, he's all this. He's perfect in every way, and he is never going to change, and that is God. That is God, that is God, that is God, and nothing else is God, and that is God only. Choked him to death. We made him into a thing, a concept, and choked the life out of him. So there's a couple of things that Nietzsche says, in this regard, I won't believe in a God that does not dance. Meaning something like this. It's not listing the criteria that he'll have to have you fulfill for him to commit himself to a faith or something like that. He means this. I'm not going to commit myself to a thing that's done. I'm not going to commit myself to a thing that's like completed, finished, right? We've done that. I want something that's growing, that's continuing, that may be improvising a little bit, that isn't really sure where it's going to finish. So it's the static thing that is dead. And so God is dead like disco is dead, right? That, it can't show us anything new. Even if you bring it up over here once a year for a, throwback party kind of thing, it's just going to be like, oh yeah, been there, done that. There's something new, please. Right? So that God is dead is not, it's just that it no longer offers us a new measure. 2,000 years and no new gods, Nietzsche says. The same thing from my father, my father's father, my father's 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 father, and my mother's mother's mother. Same kind of thing. Same life. Humanity is one thing. There is no growth. We are like, just like we have compacted God into a little thing and killed him, so too have we done that to man. Man. I said human, man, us. Michel Foucault says man is dead, following a Nietzschean sort of assessment of contemporary understanding of humanity. Right? Man is dead. We've killed him. We choked it off. And it's dead like disco is dead. Even if you want to come back to it, it's been done. We don't need it. We're moving on. So, it's like, it's not even about whether or not there is one or not. If you could bring, proof to Nietzsche that perfect God that we've been talking about for 2,000 years really existed, he'd be like, meh. I'm looking for something new. And if that be sacrilegious, well, let me earn my damnation. I will be me. Let's see, what else? So that's like this God is dead theologically means that, that there has been too static an understanding of everything. God, the divine, the holy, and ourselves. That's all dead. So secularly, what does that mean? God is dead, I understand this now as a warning, right? Not so much a proclamation. Don't go find another God. Don't go running to physics. Don't go running to biology. Don't go running to the genetic materials. Don't go running to cosmology. Don't go running to ethics. Don't go running to politics. Don't go running to money. Don't go running to some other thing that will be a static definition of you and reality. Just reason is God spelled with an R, or physics, the theory of everything is God spelled with science. Don't go looking for a thing that wraps everything up nicely. That's dead. That's dead. Okay? So God is dead in the secular sense means that, no searching out for that new measure. The real essence of humanity isn't God, but genetic material. And we all are just like this, and there's a human genome, just one, because we're all the same, and if I know something about a molecule, I know something about you. So this understanding is again, going to kill us, chokes us down, too static. So God is dead is supposed to leave everyone shaking in their shoes here, right? Not just the religious people, but there is no answer nowhere for anyone, for men and women of faith, or men and women of science, or men and women of ethics, or men and women of whatever other thing you might commit yourself to. There is no answer. So stop looking. All right. So anything, Nietzsche sort of lays to waste anything that renders humans static. I should say man, but because the reading and maybe him, I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm going to say human. Anything that makes humans static is problematic for Nietzsche. So if we understand ourselves as a soul thing, under God and stuff, then we're just one kind of thing, and we're all one kind of thing, we're the same kind of thing, we're always ever were the same kind of thing, no matter what, and that there's the same height that we can rise to, and the same bottom to which we can fall, right? This levels down humanity. If we say that we're all equal, that levels down humanity, and no matter what, we'll be equal, because if anyone shows their superiority, this thing, Nietzsche's phrase, word is a French word, ressentiment. And you'll have to say it with a nasal condescension that you can muster, right? Ressentiment. Resentment, but it's a vengeful retribution. If somebody does something outside of the expectations, they are brought back inside very quickly and harshly, right? And maybe with threats of violence, or maybe even with violence, and maybe even killed, right? If you're not male or female, there's people that want to beat the hell out of you. Just whacked, right? If you're not straight, or if you're not straight and male and female, then there's people that want to beat the hell out of you. This is crazy. If you don't stand for the national anthem, that is not a celebration of freedom. That's very, very wrong, and there'll be death threats, So this understanding of freedom as everyone doing the same thing is where we are. And Nietzsche calls that a herd morality. And any exceptionality is met with ressentiment. No one knows better than me about anything. Right? So, so don't you pretend to know better than me. So no one can be exceptional. And this is one of the things that Nietzsche brings to understanding. And what flourishes from that is a whole bunch of different things. So not the least of which is this. When all essences are thrown under the bus, so are racial essences, gender essences, religious essences, or at least they should be. I mean, sometimes they're still kept, but Nietzsche would just be you're silly for doing that. So the result of Nietzsche is that some of these things that have categorized people forever are now things that are just gone. And so feminism is finds new roots to work with here, right, in a sort of Nietzschean analysis. But homosexuality as well. I mean, these are categories that I've been placed in that don't mean anything to me. or whatever else could, whatever way that I am determined, don't really name anything real in me. They're just like words that have been said about me that sort of put me in a category that isn't a real one, right? So this is the liberation, and what we see in like the postmodern movement is that like there's an end of essences, no human essence. We are not rational things. We are not gendered things. We are not equal things. We are not white and black and yellow things, as they said back in the day, right? But there's also no truth, no absolute, no certainty, right? So even science is not our answer, and even science is going to have its presuppositions that make it a truth in its own little box. So, part of the legacy of Nietzsche is this critique of all knowledge and all certainty, and that means that things are in flux. It's not a happy time because there's no. At least I can stand here and know this. Nope, that's gone too. So, what else? Oh, a dissolution of the I, but we see some of this maybe in Marx as well, and Freud. The self that you see and the self that I am are two different things. The self that I see and the self that I am are two different things, right? Back in the day, like for Kant or maybe Aristotle, not Aristotle, Kant, Descartes for sure, I think therefore I am. I can just scan my consciousness and I know everything that is me essentially, right? So Freud and Descartes are in whatever heaven, right? And Descartes says, no, I don't want to have sex with my mother and kill my father. And Freud would be like, yeah, you do. Tell me about your dreams, right? In other words, I'm not even clear to myself from this point of view. And, Freud and Marx and Nietzsche and others sort of develop this like self by masks, or self by shadow, and self by obscurity. Ethically and historically, postmodernity have a couple things in common with what we find in Nietzsche. No moral measures, which means that all of the things that have been taken for granted become problematized. And this becomes a concern. So if God is not in heaven, then what is right and wrong? And if reason is not humans' absolute power, then how will we ever answer our question? So, moral theories become problematic. Is there even anything good? Is there even anything like morality? Or is that just a thing that we've made up? So these are like really important questions because they have to do with how I live and so forth. But for Nietzsche, there are no measures, right? And this I do think is really a problem, because in Nietzsche we find there is some of the kindest stuff that one would want to hear, some of the most empowering things one wants to hear, and some of the meanest things that one ever wants to, well, maybe not hear. So with Nietzsche, the problem, I think, is this, he does not give us a measure to judge right and wrong. Not, at least he doesn't give us one that's set out for us, like, here's what the right thing is. So, and he even says that kind of thinking is no longer worth a damn. The book we're reading is beyond good and evil. We're going to put ourselves in a place beyond those distinctions. So if you wanted to ask me, was the Holocaust good or evil? We're in a different position. That question makes no sense to me now. Or what? Is we're beyond? Is slavery, the ending of slavery, good or evil? From this standpoint, it's all the same. That it seems to me is problematic. If some of these things that seem to be just obviously evil can't be called bad in some way, then there seems to be a problem with the ethical theory. But then again, maybe I'm just clinging too hard to things that I think are bad. So, but there is a tension here. So beyond good and evil means that those distinctions don't matter for me anymore. That's for the weak people. So this is what we want to grapple with a little bit as we read Nietzsche. Two more things real quickly. Purposiveness and history, and well, the word is teleology in philosophy. Teleology. The Greek word telos means purpose or goal or end, right? So the end of life or is like the purpose of life or the goal of life or something like that. And Nietzsche's gonna critique that kind of thinking. He's gonna critique like purposive thinking, not only in my life but in history, right? So there's this like sort of an understanding, perhaps more or less well had or adhered to or believed. But there's something like back in the day, there was ancient Egypt and they had really cool things, but then there was ancient Greece, and then there was Jerusalem, and then there was Europe with Greece and Jerusalem together, flourishing, and then came America, where what happened in Athens and Jerusalem and flourished in Europe comes to find its real seat. So this is like an understanding of history from ancient times to today as moving toward a trajectory. As if like the history has been moving towards America, right? And or Christianity like itself is a teleology because Christ is coming again. So all of this is just something on the way to what's coming. It's coming. There's a purpose. There's an end. There's this, So if we understand history in those terms, it's called a meta-narrative. This phrase comes from this author Lyotard, who writes a book on the postmodern condition, where he assesses like what the heck is this time that we're living in that came after modernity. So this is where we get the word postmodern and so forth. But meta-narrative. So any sort of like coming to, we are on the way to a full freedom for everybody is a meta-narrative, right? And what that does is it sort of runs roughshod over everything else that doesn't fit into the meta-narrative, right? So that happy story of philosophy and Christianity coming to America doesn't talk about, the killing the Native Americans and the slaves and the women vote and the poor and right? So no more meta narratives, no more understanding history in terms of this coming to fruition. Those of you who have read Kant or have read Marx with me, we talked about this for Kant. The cosmopolis is a meta narrative. All of history is coming towards this global citizen. Or at least we can look at it this way, and it's beneficial to look at it this way, at least Kant says, but it's still a meta-narrative. Marx, from master-slave to the revolution to communism, meta-narrative. All of history is for this one thing, and Christianity too. I mean, we think of history this way. It's a thing that we have sort of made ourselves used to. And Nietzsche wants to like cast that out, as does postmodernity. Right? It just leaves too much out. Teleology. So a teleology in the sense of like not just the historical sense, like of all humanity and all everything was heading this way, but towards my life. Now, if we understand a teleology of my life, listen, again, it's easy to point to this Christianity. What's my life for? Well, getting in heaven, salvation, right? Eternal vision of God after death. So that's a teleology, means that the purpose of my life is that, right? Outside of Christianity, what is it? Job and what? Job and money and happiness? Money, happiness, job, whatever. Big house, car, fast thing, whatever. I mean, maybe we don't have quite such a clear trajectory, but we give ourselves these trajectories, right? Whatever, excuse me, whatever trajectory we might give ourselves, Nietzsche understands as problematic, because it understands our lives now as like falling short, right? The thing that I'm aiming for is where I will be complete. So now I am incomplete and lacking. Also, it understands the moment right now in terms of that moment of completion. So what is my value? What is the value of this experience right now? I'll tell you when I die. So all of a sudden, there is no value to the moment that is given in the moment. The value of the moment is given later on, when I'm judged by St. Peter or something like that, right? Wait till I arrive, one more paycheck, and then will have become me, or whatever. And so, judging us by a future fulfillment, judging the moment by a future fulfillment, sucks all the meaning out of this moment, sucks the meaning out of my life, and waits for meaning to come. There's this thing that Nietzsche says, what is it? The eternal return of the same, or the eternal recurrence of the same. He says, instead of thinking that we die and go to heaven, something like that, I think that we live our life again and again and again and again and again. Same life, same way from beginning to end, right? So the fight that you had in 5th grade and the heartbreak in 6th grade and all that other stuff and everything and the hangnail and the bad hair day and everything, again and again and again. One thinks, why would this even be something to consider? But instead, what it does is it sort of sucks the teleological thinking out of our minds and makes us attend to the moment. Because this moment isn't something that comes to fruition, it just comes around again. So, live in such a way that makes this moment something that you'd want to have come around again. What am I going to do next? Right? Versus like, oh man, this is a thing I had to do to get a degree. So I have to go and sit and watch Matt talk about his philosophy stuff so I can get a degree, so I can get a job, so I can get the money, so I can get the happiness, right? So what is this moment? Nothing now, and nothing in itself. So to live a life where this is hoops to get through is to miss life. So no, that's sort of like a Nietzschean postmodernist coming together of ideas that have through the rest of the 1900s into the 2000s. These have haunted philosophy, certainly on the continent and also here in America. So now I want to turn to Nietzsche and the text proper. The first couple of parts of Beyond Good and Evil. So that's where we go.